Yeah, well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March 18th, 2025 planning meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. It is 2 o'clock. And Mayor Eccles is regrets today, so I will be being the chair for today. So under number 2, declaration of interest, carrier general. Okay, seeing none. Of course, one does rise during the meeting. You can declare it at that time. And before we get into the first application, number 3, Ms. Noble, if you can provide an overview on how anyone virtually could participate.
Thank you. And through you, Deputy Mayor Hutchin. At any point, if you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the ID for this meeting, which is 891-5626-2480. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance, please send a chat message to West Gray Communications, and I will attempt to assist you.
Thank you. And that will take us to our first application, number 3, zoning amendment number ZA31-2024-504-021 Gray Road 12. And I'm going to declare that the meeting is now open, and we have an announcement. It's just part of the process we have to do. I'd like to remind everyone that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representations in respect of the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Gray Municipal Office during regular business hours. Recent amendments to the Planning Act, where the province now limit appeal rights on zoning bylaw amendment applications to the applicant, public bodies, and specified persons who made oral or written submissions to the municipality prior to the decision being made. Specific persons generally include energy, railroad, telecommunication providers, as well as NAV Canada. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback received and will be considered the decision of the West Gray Council. An application on how the public and agency comments factor into the decision will be included in the notice of passing of the bylaw. Where changes made in the proposed bylaw after holding of the public meeting, council will determine if any further notice will be given respecting the proposed bylaw, and the determination of council as to the giving of further notice is final and not subject to the review in any court, no matter to the extent of the change made in the proposed bylaw. Number 3, so we are going on to public meeting, and we're going to go to comments from and notice from the clerk. Clerk Eckenschler, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. And through you, notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located on the podium. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to me, the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Gray and the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Gray, care of the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk.
Thank you, Clerk Eckenschler. That puts us to number B, under 3, presentation from planning staff. Planner Smith, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. As you mentioned, ZA 31-2024, N. Martin, represented by S. Martin. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment before council this afternoon is to amend the A2 rural zone to permit an on-farm diversified use. I'll ask Ashley if we go to page 14 of the PDF online, please. On the screen and in council's package is a close-up of the areas to be zoned and the layout of the on-farm diversified uses. There's a lot of tags on the property, some of which don't apply at all to the on-farm diversified use, but it gives a general understanding what we're looking at for the property itself. The area on the right-hand side of the property in red has a proposed 400 square meter shop within it, and a proposed total zoned area of 2,000 square meters. Within that would be parking, loading area, outdoor storage, shop, septic, those things within that particular building envelope. Things such as the septic and so on and so forth aren't always required to be on the on-farm diversified uses, because sometimes we do use a septic system for both a house and a accessory use on a property. So in this case, it just happens to be within the square area proposed. There's also other buildings proposed on the site plan which are not part of the on-farm diversified use. The property is zoned A2 rural, so the agricultural uses and so on and so forth are still allowed on the property if the zoning for the on-farm diversified use is approved. We do have an existing proposed setback from the roadway. And the reason for that larger setback and sometimes quite welcome is that this particular case, there is a solar panel with an easement on it on the front part of the property, and that's the area in blue. And then a series of little green triangles, which represents a potential planting area. We're on Gray Road 12. And the closest type A residential use is directly across the road, roughly, as I mentioned, is shown on the diagram itself. I believe it's about 167 meters roughly between the dwelling itself and the proposed shop. As I mentioned, the zoning would propose would permit a shop with a gross floor area of 400 square meters with the entire farm diversified use footprint, which is the shop, power generation room, outdoor storage, parking, loading area, covering a maximum of 2,000 square meters. At this time, the OFDU would entail a custom metal workshop, although the site-specific zoning would permit industry dry as a general land use. Closest residential dwelling is approximately 167 meters across Gray Road 12 to the south from the OFDU shop. Great transportation, the application is on a county roadway. They do require the existing entrance to be upgraded in this particular case. We circulated the application to the various agencies, including West Gray Public Works, Building, Fire, who have no concerns. West Gray Planning Ecologist, County of Gray Planning Ecologist has no concerns. An environmental impact study was not required. Gray County Transportation, as I mentioned, they will require a new entrance for the shop to meet their commercial standards for entrances with that kind of thing. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authorities, particular case, don't have any issues with the application. We received one written comment as the data writing report, and we received no written or verbal comments since the report was uploaded to the website for your consideration. Within that comment, there was questions regarding confirm the size of the workshop, the outdoor storage area and other buildings. What noise levels will the workshop produce and how will it be mitigated? What are the hours and days of operation? Comment that the majority of the area west of the shop is not labeled on the drawing what is proposed there. If a new or larger access is required, which is a driveway, then I am proposed. There have been some storm drainage issues in the area and flooding of adjacent public road, and they did suggest or request a buffer screening be coniferous and be a minimum of 2 meters tall. The lot in total is 15.2 hectares in size. That's the total size of the farm, 37.6 acres in size, and it is a corner lot. It does have frontage also on the West Gray roadway, but the main entrance is on 12. Existing house and accessory buildings. There is a proposal to remove the existing house and construction of a new dwelling, but again, that has no bearing on the on-farm diversified use. The on-farm diversified use would still be in close proximity to the new house, which is why it was labeled overall. Most of the lot is in farmland. We reviewed the application against provincial planning statement, should be 2024, not 2020. As of October 20th, 2024, the new provincial planning statement applies to all decisions in respect of an application. In this particular case, this lot is designated rural and hazard in the County of Gray official plan. It does have an aggregate resource area constraint overall. The OFDU will be located exclusively on areas rural, and therefore the hazard doesn't come into play. And in this regard, also the aggregate resource, not a significant amount, will be taken out, and considering where the OFDU has proposed that the lands wouldn't be suitable for an aggregate license operation in that location either. Adding an OFDU to the property will not have any major impacts or significant impacts on anybody else establishing an aggregate operation within the area. We looked at garbage and recycling services, stormwater, fire protection, fire access, and overall there's no issues with that. As I mentioned, a new entrance would be required from the county. Lighting, if there's any outdoor lighting, it would be dark sky friendly, would be required. In terms of the sensitive uses, in this particular case, a comment was made regarding noise. The OFDU, sorry, my mistake. I'm going to talk about the significant woodlands. As I mentioned, the planning ecologist took a look at the significant woodlands on the property and determined that there's no requirements for an environmental impact statement. Now, overall, I believe that the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with provincial planning statement in this regard. In terms of the Grey County official plan, again, designated rural and hazard with the aggregate resource area. The OFD will be located on lands designated as rural. The rural uses within the official plan does permit OFDUs in this particular nature. And on lots less than 20 hectares of size, the official plan does set out the maximum sizes, which is on less than 20 hectares, 2% of the total lot area, or a maximum combined area of 2,000 square meters. In this particular case, the maximum size will be the 2,000 square meters for the footprint for everything. In terms of the building can't exceed 20% of the total area of the on-farm, so 20% of the 2,000 would be permitted. On-site parking, building code requirements, scale of operation in terms of the agricultural use, all that needs to be taken a look at. Overall, even though the property is relatively small, it's not a 100-acre size farm overall, but it is still secondary to the overall size and nature of the property itself. We don't take a look at whether or not you make more money on your off-farm uses in terms of working in town than you do on-farm. In this particular case, we also don't take a look at revenue in terms of an on-farm diversified use in terms of how much income they will receive from the farm parcel itself. We look at scale and nature overall. In terms of size, again, the gross floor of all buildings shall not exceed 400 square meters, a maximum of 20% of the OFDU. The drawing that's submitted and the drawing that's still up on screen shows 475 meters of gross building area. That's the shop plus proposed power room. The implementing bylaw will limit the gross building to 400 square meters. So it is in the proposed bylaw only the 400 and not the 475. Compatibility, Ministry of Environment, Conservation of Parks uses guideline D6, compatibility between industrial facilities. This will classify the operation as a class 1 with a potential influence area of 70 meters. In terms of that regard, a recommended minimum setback. So we got two different things. The D6 has a influence area of 70 meters, but the D6 also has a recommended separation distance of no smaller than 20. Significant difference between the two concepts, but the ministry does take a look at that and provides those guidelines to municipalities and the planners to take a look at. So in this particular case, the closest residential dwelling is 167 meters away, well outside the potential influence area for a class 1 industrial operation of 70 meters. In terms of noise, a significant change in noise is not expected. There will be some change in noise. It is a little bit of an industrial operation. There are new things going on on the property. But overall, again, we'll meet the setback requirements of the D6 guideline. In terms of hours of operation, a zoning bylaw cannot regulate hours of operation of any business. If any hours of operation are regulated by the municipality, it would be done under the Municipal Act if all these days. Sewage disposal, we have enough room for septic system and potable water. Environment, there's no issues from the Grey County ecologist. New entrance is required. There will be some new traffic on Grey Road 12 in order to have trucks coming in and out, but overall, no concerns with that. And fire protection access, the existing driveway will be used by both the OFDU and the farmhouse. And if it's expanded for commercial size operation as per requirements for the county transportation, that will address probably any issues in terms of fire access off of Grey Road 12. Overall, I am of the opinion that the zoning amendment does maintain the general intent and purpose of the Grey official plan. In terms of the municipality West Grey zoning bylaw, we have A2 rural on the property with a small portion of NE. The OFDU will be located in the A2 lands. We do allow for home industries on properties in general in terms of agriculture. In this particular case, the size is a little larger than we typically require for a home industry, which is why we are looking at the site-specific zoning bylaw. We are recommending an industry dry zoning be applied as opposed to something very specific such as painting or metalworking because it's very tough to control over the long term. We take a look therefore at the overall noise and sensitive impacts of a dry industrial use, which is why we went back to the D6 guideline and the 70-meter in potential influence and find that working with dry industry overall for the scale is appropriate for the property. As I mentioned, we will be we'll be limiting the location of the OFDU on the property to a location immediately to the east of the existing house. and to be located no closer than 30 meters to the lot line. That's, and again, generally because of the solar panel on the property. Maximum total ground combined area for everything of 2,000 square feet. Maximum gross floor area of all the buildings of 400 square feet, doesn't matter what they're used for within the OFDU. Dry industrial use, required dark sky friendly exterior lighting, if any. Required parking, storage, and loadings to be located within the total area. And we are requiring a tree buffer screening, the OFDU from Gray Road 12 only. So the site, the diagram shows that both on the Gray Road side and on the east side of the property, there's no sensitive uses on the other side. There's no requirement to add additional screening or anything else on that side. So the sides on the Gray Road side, which is also the residence across the roadway, is suitable for tree buffer screening and limiting signage overall on the property. The OFD will not be placed under site plan control. The site-specific zoning will be sufficient to regulate the use in this particular case. And overall, in the opinion, the proposed zoning amendment maintains the general intent and purpose of the West Gray zoning bylaw, and I recommend the recommendations provided in the report before brought forward to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Smith. And that takes us to C, which is just the comments from the applicant or their agent. I see nobody in attendance today. Ms. Noble, do you have anybody attending virtually that would have any comments? You know, be the applicant or their agent? No? Okay. We'll move to item D, comments from the public. Yeah, Ms. Noble, do you have anybody attending? I don't know who's in attendance here, so I'm seeing none. Number 4, decision. So we're going to be looking at the recommendation that Planner Smith has in the report, that in consideration of staff report ZA31.2024 and Martin S. Martin, council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw to authorize the passing of a zoning bylaw amendment. It's as it relates to ZA31.2024. Looking for a movement for that, please. Okay, thank you. Councilor Forster. Seconder, please. Councilor Hutchinson. Thank you, sir. Comments or questions? I call the vote. All those in favor, please. 12 members of council in favor, none opposed. That motion has carried. Thank you. Okay, so that'll take us to that completes that first application. And now we're going to move on to the next one, which is item 4 on the agenda, zoning amendment number ZA1.2025-521106, concession 12 NDR. And I do need to make an announcement. Okay. So. Times this one open the door for it. So I'm going to declare this one open at 2:18. And announcement. I would like to remind everyone that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representations in respect of the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Gray Municipal Office during regular business hours. Recent amendments to the Planning Act by the province now limit appeal rights on zoning bylaw amendment applications to the applicant, public bodies, and specified persons who made oral or written submissions to the municipality prior to a decision being made. Specified persons generally include energy, railroad, telecommunication providers, as well as NAV Canada. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback received will be considered in the decision of West Gray Council. An explanation of how the public and agency comments factored in decision will be included in the notice of passing of the bylaw. Where changes made in the proposed bylaw after the holding of the public meeting, council will determine if any further notice will be given respecting the proposed bylaw, and the determination of council as the giving of further notice is final and not subject to the review in any court, no matter the extent of the change made in the proposed bylaw. It's quite a bit there. So that takes us to the next item is the public meeting. Ms. Noble, can you just let anybody know that's looking to attend virtually how they can participate?
Members of the public joining virtually wishing to participate in this portion of the meeting may do so in one of 2 ways. If you have joined via phone, press *9. This will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, *9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to West Gray Communications, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
Okay, thank you. Under item A, I'm going to have any comments and notice from the clerk, please.
Thank you. And through you, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located on the podium. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to me, the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Gray and the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Gray, care of the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk.
Clerk Atkins-Miller, item number 4B, presentation from the planning staff. Planner Smith, please provide your presentation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, Council. Application ZA01-2025, work camp represented by Ron Davidson Planning. Purpose of the application is to zone 2 lots, severed lot 1 and severed lot 2, to satisfy the conditions of 2 provisional consents. So Ashley, if we go to page 28 of 61, please. The picture shown on the screen is the draft zoning schedule for the application. On it, we see 2 zones, an A2 537 for severed lot 1 and an A2 538 for severed lot 2 in relationship to the parcel as a whole and the A2 and the NE. And actually, go one more page to page 29, please. Page 29, or the screen up on the screen at the moment, is the aerial photograph of the total property. And you can see the one set of buildings already exist. That is the severed lot 1 that we're looking at. There is no current buildings on what would be severed lot 2 with the other A1 538. The lot is designated rural land use type and hazard in the County of Gray official plan with significant woodlands and natural heritage system linkage constraints. Property is currently zoned A2 rural and natural environment. Gray County Planning Ecologists is of the opinion that an environmental impact statement or assessment is not required. Previous reports, the Community of Adjustment for the Municipality of West Gray previously heard applications B03-2025 and B0-2025 for 2 consents. Referenced and again in the report is severed lot 1 and severed lot 2, and approved both provisional consents with a condition that a zoning amendment be brought forward, which is the reason for this application before council today. In terms of the application was circulated to various agencies, including West Gray Public Works, Building and Fire, West Gray Public Works, just noting that they need to have approved entrances and civic address. There's going to be a new lot, so we'll need a new entrance and a new 911 number when it does go up. West Gray Building, that the septic system to be located wholly on the severed lot or the zoned lot in this particular case. West Gray Fire, no concerns. County of Gray, staff opinion from the county ecologist and environmental impact study assessment is not required. In Saugeen Valley, staff find the application to be acceptable. We received 1 written comment from the public as of the date of writing this report. We've not received any other comments, written or verbal, as of the date of uploading the application of the report to the website for your review. The comments noted are, we are in a farming community. We would like to build a barn on our farm in the future, which is beside the farm to the east, in this particular case, that Mr. Boerkamp would like to sever. Reviewed the application of the Provincial Planning Statement 2024. As of October 20th, 2024, the provincial planning statement applies to all decisions with respect to the exercise of any authority that affects a planning matter. Review the application in terms of the rural and hazard policies of the provincial policy statement and the requirement for minimum distance separation requirements within that. Reviewed the application in terms of the Gray County official plan. The lot is designated rural and hazard, as I mentioned, significant woodland constraint, and a natural heritage system constraint on a part of the retained lot. Parts of the lands are within the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority regulated area, but there's no development proposed either within the hazard lands, the significant woodlands, or the natural heritage system. The 2 lots that we're looking at here, the 2 zoned areas, are outside of those particular areas. Section 5.4, the official plan rural land use types, those that are, the rural designation offers flexibility for lot creation with a wide range of lot sizes. Limited lot creation is allowed in the rural designation, provided the total number of parcels from the original 40-hectare Crown Survey Township does not exceed 4, including the retained parcel. Creation of these 2 parcels and the zoning that goes along with it would meet the official plan lot density requirements. New lots created in the rural area need to be 0 hectares in size and generally have a maximum 1-to-3 ratio. We have no issues over that overall. Those are reviewed in terms of the committee of adjustment when looking at the consent and the lot sizes and frontage in that particular case. Again, severed lot 1 is proposed as a flag lot with 17 meters. And the overall, it will be sufficient in order to provide access to the property. Severed lot 2 is currently vacant. It does again also meet the requirements for area and for the frontage to depth requirements. The MDS was provided. That does demonstrate that the current barns in the area for MDS 1 does meet the requirements for the severed lot. In terms of the comment regarding new livestock facilities or expansion to existing livestock facilities, new livestock facilities or expansion to livestock facilities must comply with MDS 2. All within MDS, but a slightly different calculation. MDS 2 calculates the separation required between the livestock facility and all sensitive uses, for example, institutional or residential uses. Table provided in your planning report provides an indication of the MDS 2 setbacks required for 2 livestock types or numbers. And we're not saying this is what the individual proposes, but in terms of West Grey and this part of Grey County, we took a look at the fairly standard type of animals that we have and maybe the size of the parcel in terms of being able to support those animals. So we looked at swine and weaners, 70 to 26 kilograms with liquid manure inside, which is underneath the slatted floor, potential number of 300 head with an MDS distance 2 of 184, or beef cows, including calves to weaning confinement with solid outdoor manure with no cover, with 50 with about 146 meters required separation. Again, this is the distance between the new barn, and a sensitive use. Not necessarily on this property, but any sensitive use, residential use, is what the MDS 2 applies to. In general, the neighboring farm lots are large, about 100 acres, 96 acres in size, which may provide sufficient MDS 2 setback distance to construct a new livestock facility. In other words, the 184 and 146 is available on other properties. It may not be exactly where you want to be, but that's what happens when it's on the first come, kind of first served basis for MDS in Ontario. If the house is there first, the barns meet the setback. If the barn is there first, then we meet the setback for a new house or residential lot. In this particular case, I do believe that there's more than sufficient room on the other parcels. Maybe again, not where they would like to have a barn close to the house, but on 100 acres that there's more than enough room to find 184 or 146 meters if that type of building or size is looked at. What I'm saying is that the concerns over the property next door, yeah, there's concerns there, but there should be enough room for them to meet MDS as long as they're not building a mega barn. And even then they would have problems with some of the other developments in the residential uses already in the area that you must take into consideration. We looked at section 7.13 core areas and linkages and 7.41 significant woodlands, and overall there's no issues with those particular policies within the Grey County official plan. In terms of the municipality West Grey comprehensive zoning bylaw, we do have to take a look at severed lot 1 in terms of lot area and frontage, and in terms of severed lot 2 in terms of the area and frontage. We're proposing 2 specific zones in A2 538 and the A2 537 for both of the zones. And overall, we do believe that the lots after they're finished are in keeping with the general intent of the zoning bylaw. The reduced lot 1, the flag lot 1, again, already considered in terms of its shape and frontage by community adjustment. Overall, I have the opinion that the zoning amendment as proposed does represent good planning. We recommend that the committee recommend that to council passage of the bylaw for ZA 01/2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Smith. That takes us to item C, and that will be any comments from the applicant and or agent. Ms. Noble, do you have anybody virtually that has any comments or questions? Anybody in attendance here today that would like to speak to that? So we have a new podium for you to stand at there, sir. And you can just state your name for the record and the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Ron Davidson. I'm a planning consultant and I represent the board camps. Very quickly here, yeah. Last month I was standing here with regard to the two severances and the committee approved them. There was that discussion. The author of that letter was here and we talked about his possible concern about being able to build a barn. And as was discussed at that point, I don't like saying it, but first come, first serve. It's good that Dave went to the extra effort though between now and then to actually crunch some numbers just to prove to the council that this gentleman can in fact build a barn on his property. So that's good. This was standing here because a zoning bylaw amendment is required. Anytime you're looking at a severance under 50 acres in the countryside, it requires an amendment to the zoning bylaw because your zoning bylaw requires a minimum lot area of 50 acres or 20 hectares. It's kind of a formality. I mean, if the same people that approve the severance has the zoning bylaw amendment in front of them, presumably council is going to approve the zoning bylaw amendment. Yeah, that's it for my presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. And you have nobody else online? Okay. Well, that concludes item C. And that takes us to comments from the public under D. Again, Ms. Noble, do you have anybody virtually attending? Any comments? No? Okay. Nobody from the public has any comments on it? Well, that takes us to 4. Go up here, and that'll be the decision. And we do have a recommendation in front of us that in consideration of staff report ZA01.2025 Burkamp Davidson, council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw to amend bylaw 37-2006 as it relates to ZA1.2025. You're moving for that, please. Councilor Townsend, thank you, sir. Moving it. Seconder, please. Councilor Shay, thank you. Comments or questions? Councilor Shay, go ahead, sir.
So with regard to the minimum setback, MDS, minimum distance setback, it's, as you said, it's, if there's a house, then the barn must abide. And if there's a barn, then the house must abide. This does not necessarily establish that there's a house. This is just a zoning change. So the house may not be built for years. And so the barn might get built in the meantime. Is that a possibility? Am I reading that right?
So yes. Some bylaws, I'll have to take a look at the revised version of the MDS about vacant lots, because we have a lot of vacant lots, as you can imagine. Not just this one in particular may be created in terms of MDS and about what happens to sterilize them, in some respects. So, but as Mr. Davidson's mentioned, I said, it's generally it's a first come, first serve basis in terms of that. And if you lose your development rights on lot, then there are avenues to bring forward to a committee of adjustment or to a council an amendment to the MDS. So sometimes they're granted, sometimes they're not.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, I guess we're gonna call the vote. Any other comments or questions? Sorry. Okay, call the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. I see 4 members, 5 in favor. Anybody opposed? 1 opposed. That motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, item number 5 on today's agenda is zoning amendment number ZA03.2025-042-438 Road 71. And I will declare that this public meeting time is 2:34. We're going to start this one. And before we continue, Ms. Noble, if you could provide an overview, anybody attending virtually, how they can participate, please.
If you have joined via phone, press *9 to raise your hand. This will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, *9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking either the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to Westray Communications, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
Thank you. And I do have an announcement to make as to with all applications. I'd like to remind everyone that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act should be given an opportunity to make representations in respect of the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Grey Municipal Office during regular business hours. Recent amendments to the Planning Act for the province now limit appeal rights on zoning bylaw amendment applications to the applicant, public bodies, and specified persons who made oral or written submissions to the municipality prior to the decision being made. Specified persons generally include energy, railroad, telecommunication providers, as well as NAV Canada. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback received will be considered in the decision of the West Grey Council. An explanation of how the public and agency comments factored into the decision will be included in the notice passing of the bylaw. Where changes made in the proposed bylaw after the holding of the public meeting, council will determine if any further notice will be given respecting the proposed bylaw, and the determination of council as to the giving of further notice is final and not subject to review in any court, no matter the extent of the change made in the proposed bylaw. And I believe that one completes that statement, and that will take us into number item A, and that will be comments and notice from Clerk Eckenswiller. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you. And through you, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located on the speaker's table, the podium. The information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to me, the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey and the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Grey, care of the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is item B, overview from the planning, and I will ask Planner Smith to present your application. Go ahead, or your file. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, Deputy Mayor. Council said A03-2025 Beringer, represented by Ron Davidson Planning. Purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to amend the A3 restricted agriculture and the NE natural environment zone to permit an on-farm diversified use. Ashley, if we could go to page 46, please, in the PDF. Thank you. Shown in the council room on the screen and online is a site plan for Beringer showing in red dotted outline the OFDU footprint itself, heavy red line showing the building itself, and some relative distances back from Road 71, West Grey Road 71 to the north, and being offset from Grey Road 6 to the east. It shows, again, the outdoor storage, customer parking, and again, just in general, the building itself, plus other existing buildings and structures on the property. The zoning would permit a shop with a gross floor area of 1,200 square meters with the entire on-farm diversified use footprint, shop, the power generation room, outdoor storage, parking, loading area covering 6,330 square meters. This time, the OFDU would include a welding and powder coating or painting workshop, although the site-specific zoning would permit industry dry as a general land use. In this particular case, on this application, the closest residential dwelling is approximately 360 meters across Road 71 to the northwest from the proposed OFDU shop. We circulated the application to various agencies, including West Grey Public Works, Building, Fire. We have no concerns overall, although Building does note that the building itself, considering its proposed size, once you get over a certain size, will start to need to meet various requirements in terms of fire separation, cladding, fire protection, and possibly even sprinklers. But that's determined based on the size of the building, not on the zoning. So even though at this particular time, the application did note 1,200 square meters of building, if the building is below the square footage, square meters required of the building code, then certainly those things may not be required. And that's determined at the building stage. All we can say at this particular case is that the property is big enough and the OFDU overall footprint fits within the numbers that they required. So that's what we take a look at. In terms of the County of Gray, the Gray County Planning Ecologist has reviewed it and has no concerns. Environmental impact study was not required. The county did again note that the Ministry of Environment D6 guidelines should be addressed in terms of setbacks between sensitive uses. Gray County Transportation has no concerns. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. In this particular case, a permit is required, but overall staff do find the application acceptable. There have been no comments received as of the date of writing the report, and no comments received either verbally or written since the report was uploaded to your email address. The lot is municipally known as 042438 Road 71. It's about 43.7 hectares in size, 108 acres in size, with frontage both onto West Gray 71 and Gray Road 6. An existing house and accessory buildings and barns on the property. The proposed OFDU would be in close proximity to the existing house. The lot is a combination of farmland in forest. Review the application versus provincial planning statement, should say 2024, not 2020. As of October 20, 2024, the new provincial planning statement applies to all decisions with respect to the exercise of any authority that affects a planning matter, including one by this particular planning council and the Council of the Municipality of West Gray. Review the application in terms of the lot being designated rural and hazard in the County of Gray official plan. It includes the aggregate resource area and significant woodlands constraints on the property. We reviewed those portions of the provincial policy statement in that regard. Overall, the on-farm diversified uses is permitted in the rural area and in the provincial policy statement. The development can be sustained by rural service levels. There's no need for changes to infrastructure overall. Garbage, recycling services, stormwater, fire protection, all that can be provided to the property. As I mentioned, in terms of the size of the building, if it gets over a certain size, then sprinklers and or on-site fire protection in terms of a water tank may be required, but again, determined at that stage of a building permit. And the building can get larger over a period of time. So maybe at some point in time, you would trigger that as opposed to maybe the very first time around. That's to be seen again in terms of building permits. Lighting, dark sky friendly lighting will be required if there's any exterior lighting. Most of the property is within an aggregate resource area, but the amount of land coming out and its location in relationship to the house will have no impact on the ability to extract aggregate on the other property in the area or possibly even on this one in the future. The significant woodlands are not a concern to the county ecologist, but overall, I am of the opinion that the proposed zoning is consistent with the provincial policy statement. Reviewed the application against the County of Gray official plan. Again, the lot is designated rural and hazard with aggregate resource area, significant woodlands constraints on the property. The OFDU would be located on lands designated as rural within the county official plan on lots greater than 20 hectares in size, and this does set the size requirement. Within that, the on-farm diversified use maximum size is the lesser of 2% of the total area or a maximum combined area of 8,000 square meters. The size of the building is then 20% of the max of the total size of the on-farm diversified use area. In this particular case, the maximum combined area, including shop, parking, power room, and outdoor storage, would be 6,330 meters squared. A maximum of 8,000 square meters is permitted considering the size of the farm parcel. The gross floor area of all buildings, that's a combined total of all buildings associated with the OFDU, will be 1,115 meters squared or 17.6% of the maximum combined area, and a maximum of 20% is allowed in the official plan, so we're within that. Compatibility, Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks Guideline D6 compatibility between industrial facilities would classify the operations as Class 1 with a potential influence area of 70 meters. It also has a recommended setback of a minimum of 20 meters toward residential use. In this particular case, the nearest sensitive use is 360 meters from the nearest residence to the northwest, and we find there would be no particular issues in terms of sensitivity or impact. In terms of noise, significant change in noise is not expected due to the change in land use, and again, the workshop will meet the setback requirements of the guideline D6. Sewage disposal, potable water, environmental issues are not again, no concerns been identified with that. Traffic, road access will be maintained via Road 71 and Grace Road 6. There may be some small increase in traffic, but overall, the road network in the area is suitable for the amount of expected traffic. Fire protection and fire access, existing driveway, eastern driveway in this particular case, there are two entrances will be used for the OFDU and the access to the barn. There are so no indications that there are any particular issues with the size. Again, if it goes up in size and fire protection needs to come in, fire protection is part of, and the entrance to a site is included within the Ontario Building Code in terms of evaluation of the width of a driveway in that particular case, but there's no issues with the lot grading or anything overall with increasing the size of the driveway required for building. Reviewed the application against the municipality West Gray zoning bylaw. Again, currently zoned A3 restricted agriculture and NE natural environment. The OFDU will be located on lands zoned in A3 with a small portion of lands currently zoned in E. The current natural environment zoning on the property is not correct, and it's going to be modified in order to match the County of Gray official plan and some comments provided by the Conservation Authority in terms of where the natural environment boundary should actually be on the property overall. West Gray zoning bylaw does allow for home industries in A3 lands. The home industry and the on-farm diversified use are very similar. In this particular case, we are proposing an industry dry as opposed to being very specific in terms of the type of painting or welding shop overall. We reviewed the application against some of the current policies in the home industry, and overall it does meet the majority of them. Overall, the zoning amendment would limit the location of the OFDU on the property to a location immediately to the east of the existing house, with the shop to be located no closer than 53 meters to the front lot line as proposed in the site plan. We limit the total lot area, total industry area to a combined area of 6,400 square meters, and the building itself to, of all buildings, to 1,200. We do give a little bit of increase in size as long as it's within the total size. Gives a little bit of flexibility over the long term as opposed to nailing it down specifically and not being able to be a little bit larger, considering if you went in today with a large area, you'd be allowed it to. So we do a slightly larger area than proposed. Dry industry is a permitted use, dark sky friendly exterior lighting required. The parking, storage, loading areas to be within the home industry total area, and a restriction on total unilluminated signs. The OFDU will not be placed under site plan control. The site-specific zoning will be sufficient to regulate the use. And overall, in the opinion that the proposed zoning amendment does maintain the general intent and purpose of the West Gray zoning bylaw. And I recommend that the recommendation is proposed to council be approved. Thank you.
Banner Smith. That takes us to item C, and that's comments from the applicant or their agent. And Ms. Noble, do you have anybody virtually attending that has any comments or questions at this time? No? Anybody in attendance today would have a comment or question? And if so, just take the podium and state your name for the record, and the floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon. Still Ron Davidson, planning consultant. I'm representing the owners, Irvin and Janet Berenger. So yeah, Irvin is a farmer, or they both are. They've been farming the property for a while, and he owns and operates a small business. As David indicated, your zoning bylaw does allow for something called a home industry, which is basically this, but on a much smaller scale, and it's regulated by floor area. So he's got an existing operation, but he wants to build a new building and go bigger. Your official plan for Gray County allows for this, as David has stated. He is allowed, for example, a lot area of I think it's 0.8 hectares to be used, and he's going to go smaller than that. And the building is based on 20% up to 20% of the area that is zoned he can use for a building, and he's going to be more like 17%. So he checks all the boxes with regard to official plan conformity. There are no issues, as you heard from your planner, with regard to provincial policy statement. I'll just leave it at that. If there's any questions, hopefully I can answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Yeah, we got to keep checking that you're the same person when you come up, so. All right, number D is comments from the public. Again, Mr. Noble, I'm going to go back to you, see if anybody's attending virtually. No? Once, twice, no. I have nobody in attendance here. So that will take it down to the decision, which is a recommendation before us that in consideration of staff report ZA03 2025, Berenger Davidson, council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw to authorize the passing of a zoning bylaw amendment as it relates to ZA03.2025. Look for a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Townsend. Is there a seconder for this application recommendation, please? Councillor Forrester. Okay, any comments or questions on this recommendation? Member Noon, or Councillor Noon, go ahead, please.
Thank you. It's probably not too serious, but I was just wondering why a tree buffer isn't required in this instant where the first application it was. Is it because of the size or the location, like off certain roads, or I was just kind of wondering why one has to have it and this one doesn't.
And in general, you're correct. You know, we don't require things if we don't need them. You know, it's a cost to an applicant at times to do various things, fencings, trees, whatever it is. So if there's more than sufficient setback on a property, then we don't require it. You know, we don't get into the idea, sorry, of things being pretty, if you know what I mean, and hidden behind things when not required. So we have, you know, look at that more so within the urban areas. And in this particular case, the 360 meters and when you take a look at the house and the property to the northwest is actually buried back into the trees. So what are we trying, you know, what we try to achieve?
Yep, go ahead.
I thought maybe too, it had something to do like for noise, you know, for future, like, you know, trying to put that barrier up to, but it is, the setback is quite a bit different than the first one. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Townsend, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, and I'm not sure whether this would fall into planning or not. Planner Smith, it maybe might be more to the building stuff, but we're seeing more and more of these Mennonite Amish, whatever, with building their home industries, and they talk about a power room. Majority of them use diesel generators and whatnot, but
What's your point of order? You have to use your mic, please. Sorry, there you go. Oh, hang on. Okay, go.
Should we be referring to the religion of the applicant? I don't believe that's relevant.
Why don't you reword it, please?
so we're seeing a lot more home-based businesses started up by different denominations, different people. But I guess where I'm coming from is a lot of them are generating their own power. They have a power room, whether it's a diesel generator or it's battery storage. And I guess that's what I'm wondering from a planning perspective. If it's battery storage, should we know ahead of time if it's lithium batteries? Because they're like, if they were to catch fire, they're harder to put out than, is that something the fire department should know? Is that something that we should know as a municipality ahead of time? The type of power they're going to generate or the type of what they're using for their power generation. I don't know whether that's something planning would get involved in, but it is in the early stages. So you would need to know that, I would think. Or maybe some other people in the room that have been around may have ran into this in other incidents too. It's just a question that I'm just kind of wondering.
Do you have a comment, Planner Smith, or?
Well, we are seeing off-grid homes. We are seeing different types of power generation, as you mentioned. We're seeing people who are concerns about the environment, about what they put solar panels on their houses and all the rest of it things. So wiring in general, you know, if you're going to wire something, does require a building permit. As looked at through, I believe, TSSA or the Electrical Safety Authority to take a look at various things. So in terms of just general wiring and things being safe that way, all wiring, whether it's a generator or on the grid itself or solar panels to batteries is looked at. The use of lithium or batteries in particular, certainly has driven a lot of concerns, and not just in terms of people's houses. And you probably even see it sometimes in the news about things on airplanes these days and little tiny lithium batteries in particular. But in terms of planning, I guess you could say I'm less concerned when we're in the middle of nowhere than when I'm buried in the middle of downtown Durham. So don't get me wrong, it's not nice to have a potential fire on a lithium anywhere, But when we take a look at from a risk perspective about where we put things, so if we were to look at battery electric storage kind of thing within an urban area, we'd probably be far more concerned in terms of how we deal with that than maybe a little less concerned out in the countryside. And it's just because we have the room. So.
Go ahead.
And the only reason I was asking that is simply purely from a fire protection standpoint. If the fire department would need to be aware of what they are potentially walking into, but that may come at the building stage then.
Parts of it comes at the building stage. Okay, so the size of the building is certainly a fire concern. Whether or not the Electrical Safety Authority or whatever it is says to a fire department, oh, by the way, David Smith put in a Northvolt battery system into his house, which are lithium batteries, and therefore you should be aware of it. Not that I'm aware of that linkage between that and telling a fire department you now have little dots across the town of Durham or Neustadt about where people have various battery packs. I don't believe is done.
Okay, any other comments or questions we do have the recommendation moved and seconded that's before us here. Okay, seeing none, we'll call the vote then. Everybody clear on the recommendation? It's been read out, it's been moved and seconded. For all those in favor then, if you can just raise your hand. I see all council members are in favor, none opposed. That motion has carried. And that completes that application. And that takes us to our final application of the day. It's under item number 6 is zoning amendment number ZA05.2025. And this is a housekeeping amendment here. It's 114 North Park Avenue, 118 North Park Avenue, 122 North Park Avenue. And what I'm going to do is just declare this meeting. I'm going to say this one is open at 2:56. So we keep track what we're doing here. And before we continue, Ms. Nova, if you can just provide an overview of anybody's attending virtually, how they can participate.
If you have joined via phone, press *9 to raise your hand. This will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, *9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking either the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to West Grey Communications, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
Thank you, Ms. Noble. Before we get into the actual application, I do have to make this statement here. And that's, I would like to remind everyone that the purpose of the public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representations in respect of the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Grey Municipal Office during regular business hours. Recent amendments to the Planning Act where the province now limit appeal rights on zoning bylaw amendment applications to the applicant, public bodies, and specified persons who made an oral or written submissions to the municipality prior to the decision being made. Specified persons generally include energy, railroad, telecommunication providers, as well as NAV Canada. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback received will be considered in the decision of the West Grey Council. An explanation of how the council and agency comments factored into the decision will be included in the notice of passing of the bylaw. Where changes made in the proposed bylaw after the holding of the public meeting, council will determine if any further notice will be given respecting the proposed bylaw, and the determination of council as to the giving of the further notice is final and not subject to the review in any court, no matter the extent of the change made in the proposed bylaw. So that's completed that comment statement for myself, and I'm going to go to item number A on this applicant, and that's a comment from our clerk. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. And through you, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located on the podium. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to me, the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey and the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Grey, care of the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk.
Thank you, Clerk Eckelswiller. That takes us to item B, and that's presentation from the planning staff. Planner Smith, if you could present your or the application, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Council. ZA 05-2025, a housekeeping amendment sponsored by the municipality of West Gray itself. Purpose of the housekeeping is to amend the building height wording of the M1-151 industrial exception zone. This would correct a wording error in the implementing bylaw from 2022. The wording would change from minimum building height 15 meters to maximum building height of 15 meters. And it will apply to the whole M1-151 zone, which is basically 3 property addresses, 114, 118, and 122 North Park. The lots or the addresses are currently designated Industrial Business Park Settlement Area in the County of Gray official plan. Previous reports, again, the properties were zoned in 2021 to M1151. We circulated this particular application in West Gray Public Works, building fire, no concerns. The application was not circulated for comment to the County of Gray or the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. However, we did send them a notice of public meeting to both the county and to the Conservation Authority. And the reason why we didn't circulate them is it cost us $450 for $400 for the county and $260 for the Saugeen Valley Conservation comments on something as simple as, in this particular case, is fixing a word that was inadvertently included in the bylaw. We received no comments from the public. We did still circulate it. We did put a sign up on the property as mentioned by the clerk. Provincial planning statement, reviewed that. There's no specific direction on height, of course, in the provincial planning statement. It doesn't speak to those kind of specifics within a zoning bylaw overall. County of Gray official plan, we're designated industrial business park settlement area. Again, there's no specific direction on zoning bylaws or maximum height within that. It's left up again to the comprehensive zoning bylaw itself to regulate. And again, the M151 zone established the following regulations: a minimum lot area is 0.4, a minimum front yard of 15 meters, and a minimum building height of 15 meters. And there you can see the problem. A minimum building height of 15 meters was the problem. So again, the application would just change it to maximum building height and leave all the remainder of the words, exceptions intact as they stand now. In that regards, I do recommend that as a recommendation to council, that files at A05-2025 be brought forward by law. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Smith. It's straightforward then. Again, I'm going to go to Ms. Noble. Is there anybody in attendance virtually has any comments or questions on this application? Okay, seeing none. There is nobody in attendance here today for this one. And again, I'll go back to Ms. Noble. Is anybody online virtually from the public? No. So that has taken us down to the decision. And everyone's clear on it. Yes. On the recommendation or on the file? Okay, yeah, go ahead. Well, okay, go ahead and then I'll get to go for the recommendation.
Just clarification. So this applies across the board, the minimum, the maximum height of 50 meters. It's not just for these 3 parcels in this development, right? This is in our bylaw, the 15 meter maximum. I'm not sure.
So in general, yes, the bylaw has a maximum of 15 meter height in it, especially on the industrial side.
Oh.
So the only thing we're changing here is the minimum to maximum is just a typo is basically what we're saying. It's not that there nothing more to it than that.
That's correct.
Yeah, they didn't want to build that high, so. Yeah, that's exactly what that says. Okay, so I'm going to call for, a second, but the recommendation before us is that in consideration of staff report ZA05.2025 housekeeping West Gray, council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw to amend bylaw 37-2006 as it relates to ZA05.2025. I'm looking for a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Noon. Is there a seconder for that? Okay, Councillor Shea, thank you. Is there any comments or questions as it relates to the actual recommendation that's before us? Seeing now, we'll call the vote. All those in favor then, please. See all council members are in favor. There's none opposed. So that motion has carried. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that does take us down to number 7, which is adjournment, and I will declare that all items on this planning meeting this afternoon have been completed. And I say we will be stand adjourned at 3